when Tim Steidten was appointed as our director of football, or technical director, whatever you want to call it, we did a video straight away and suggested that it would probably be an issue in regards to David Moyes, because David Moyes is an old school manager. We know that, always been used to that kind of control over the team affairs. And I get that, because that's like, it's where he's from and that's the era he's from, etc. And that's what he's used to. But the game has moved on. I mean, we talk about it as if it's such a modern thing. It isn't really that modern, but West Ham are certainly behind in that. But we get in this director of football in Tim Steidten, and there was always these big question marks over the relationship between Steidten and Moyes, how it's going to work. And there was always going to be this doubt that it was going to last very long. And we're certainly starting to see it now coming to fruition, this kind of fracture of their relationship. Maybe not even a fracture of relationship, but possibly just the fact that it just isn't working. And what I'm referring to is an article from Jacob Steinberg, and basically it's now also doing its rounds elsewhere now, in that Tim Steidten wants more power at West Ham. He wants to do the job that he's brought in to do, be this director of football / technical director. He wants to have full control of club affairs. He wants to have, in terms of the team, he wants to be able to recruit the players and be able to sell players. He wants to pick the manager or the head coach. He wants a head coach. And I totally understand that. I totally get it. And let's be honest, as West Ham fans, when we got Steidten in, that's what we wanted to see. This more modern approach, and basically sidelining bloody David Sullivan, keeping him out of those sort of affairs, having someone else with a brain and understanding of the game and knowledge of the spectrum in terms of managers that are available and players. He's known as the pearl diver, as we've said before, picking these sort of young players out and for reasonable prices and bringing them to the club and seeing them grow and build an exciting team. We're seeing it at Bayer Leverkusen, aren't we? What the side that he helped put together and what they're now achieving. This is what West Ham fans wanted. As I say, there was always this doubt, though, with regards to David Moyes. How's he really going to operate under Steidten? Is it going to work? And, we're, less than a year into it now, and already now we're starting to see that there are problems. Before I go into it a bit further, though, I just want to say that we're giving away a West Ham top. We give away one every month, home, away, third, whatever you want. And we give away it for free to a subscriber. So all you need to do is be a subscriber. And by the way, when we do our statistics each month and look at subscribers, and et cetera, it works out, I think about 40% of you watching this video are not subscribers. All you need to do, is free to do so. Click subscribe, click like, and then I think next week we'll have the video coming out for the competition to win a West Ham top. And it's great. We love giving them away, and why not be a subscriber and join us on this journey? Because let's be honest, it's going to be quite an interesting one with West Ham. Always is, but you get the feeling the next few months are going to be really, really big. We got back into Europe. We've got this situation with David Moyes. There's so much going on and a big summer ahead. So, yeah, stick with us. So, we do appreciate it. But look, David Moyes, the way things, the feeling is at the moment, you feel like with what David Moyes is saying as well, how things are being presented in the press, et cetera, and the fact that he's, coming to his last few months of his current contract, it just feels like the end is approaching. Or when I say the end, in terms of David Moyes, more that actually David Sullivan really needs to make a decision here. He really does. David Sullivan might well be sitting back here thinking, this is all right for me, because it's David Moyes taking all the flack. It's him getting all the attention from the media and everything else and all the fans and all that kind of stuff. I think he's quite happy with that scenario. It would obviously rather West Ham be doing better, but he's not getting any of the stick. That's going to change. That is going to change very, very quickly if David Sullivan doesn't start making the right decisions. And the decision he's got is, does he stick with David Moyes? Does he stick with this manager? I get the temptation. I understand why there'd be a temptation to stick with David Moyes. Why wouldn't there be? He'd be sitting there thinking, well, hang on a minute. This guy's come in. He's kept me up. He's kept the club up when he took over from Pellegrini. Twice he's kept the club up. He's also got West Ham into Europe, 3 years on the spin, and he's won me a trophy. I can understand why there would be some form of loyalty from David Sullivan towards David Moyes. I get it. But on the other hand, he's then got Tim Steidten. it's quite clear that Tim Steidten wants to have more power, and I really think he wants to have a different manager. I think that would be natural. I think we've all kind of known that would be the case. It was unlikely to be a big long-term relationship between Steidten and Moyes. It was always likely to be only very short-term. Tim Steidten's already making the noises, isn't he? We're hearing already from everywhere else that he's a bit fed up. And he's obviously been linked with a Liverpool job. We talked about that. He came out in the press, didn't he? And kind of said, well, it was flattering to be linked to Liverpool, etc., etc. For me, now standing back from it, and you get the article we've got from Steinberg in terms of what they're talking about Steidten here, in that he wants more power at West Ham. It's basically, I think David Sullivan's got a dilemma. He's got to pick one or the other. He really does. And as far as I'm concerned, he's brought Tim Steidten to this football club because he wanted to adopt this director of football model. That's what we want as a football club. We want to see this new approach to how we do things. The old hat model has not worked for a long time. It's expensive as well. It's expensive to the football club to keep going from manager to manager, who then comes in and wants a complete different set of players, different style of football. It's difficult. It requires a really expensive rebuild. Whereas if you go down the director of football route, i.e. Steidten picking a sort of type of player, a kind of system that he wants to see, he's effectively just bringing in a coach to manage that. If it goes belly up, you just replace the coach to another coach that will work on that system. So you haven't got to then go, right, we've now got to sell 5 or 6 players and bring new ones in. You don't have to do that. So I can understand. I mean, this is the way we want it to go down. And also, we've seen Steidten's work. As I say, you look at Leverkusen and see how well they're doing. You're thinking, well, we want a bit of that. So David Sullivan's got, he's as far as I'm concerned, he's brought this man in. You've got to back him. You've got to stand by Steidten. You've got to. Otherwise, what was the point? What was the point in going out of their way to bring in someone, by the way, who was heavily linked with other big clubs across Europe before he came to West Ham? There must have been some big conversations. I can't imagine it was just down to a £1 note. I just don't believe that. I understand that it would have been a pay rise coming from the German Bundesliga, absolutely, to the Premier League. I'm sure his money went up considerably. But at the same time, I doubt that was the main factor for him. It would have been assurances that he would have had a role that he's been given, i.e. the director of football role, that he would have been in charge. He will be overseeing. And also brings into the question of the January transfer window. We'll talk about this in another video tomorrow in regards to Lucas Paqueta and the situation regarding him returning, etc. I'll talk about that a bit more. But when you look at the January transfer window, you do wonder whether really David Sullivan in the back of his mind is thinking, I want to get rid of David Moyes in a way, and I'm not going to back him. I'm not going to back him and bring in more players. I'm not going to spend any more money bringing more players. That could well be the case. It kind of feels like it's aligning that way a little bit. Because, make no mistake, this is just my personal point of view. I understand there are people that will want to stick with David Moyes. And as I've said just previously, and I understand that. I get that. I do understand why there's some people, including possibly even David Sullivan. I'm just saying I'm not sure that is the case, but I could understand it. Because you go, well, look at the track record. These are just facts. Even this season, even though now we are, as fans, fuming of the situation we're in and really unhappy with what we're seeing, not in terms of, everything, aren't we? The performance levels have been terrible. The energy levels have not been good enough. The commitment is not there. The fight isn't there. The style of football's bad. And now the results are really poor. That being said, when you just if you forget all that for a minute, just look at the facts, you go, wait a minute, we're still in the top half of the league, we're still in the Europa League, we're only a few points off the European places. You kind of think, well, actually, it's not actually as bad as you think. So I can understand why there are certain people that will go, well, actually, I'd rather stick with David Moyes. I do understand it. But I think what you've got with Steidten is someone that's highly regarded, who's got a good track record of that role. And we are a club that wants to kick on. We want to push on. I feel like when you think of David Moyes now, at the current situation, I struggle to see a way back for him. I really do. And I don't mean that in a results way. David Moyes has proven time and again. We've done videos on here, haven't we? Plenty of them where we've said, I don't see him surviving this. He's in real big trouble. I've said it. These words have come out of my mouth a few times. And then to be fair to him, he's turned it around. He's managed to get the results. But what's different this time is the relationship between the manager and the fans. It feels, well, the worst it's been. It feels almost exhausted. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like it's just run its course. I struggle to see a way back. XWH employee and Dave Walker do the podcast on the West Ham Way Patreon. Got the link below. If you're not a Patreon, go and check it out. Fantastic. And they were talking on that, and X actually put a really good point out about David Moyes and said, even if David Moyes was to go on a fantastic run now this season with West Ham, let's just say West Ham went on a great run now, he turned it around, the form went up, and we went and finished 6th in the league, and we went and won the Europa League and got the Champions League, David Moyes would be given a new deal. I would expect that to happen if we did all that, all right? Let's just say, hypothetically say that's what happened, right, this season. Understandably, David Moyes would be given a deal. However, you just know for a fact, even after achieving all that, next season, the second we have a bad spell, the fans will be right on him. It's almost like the fans now have just had enough and desperately want to change. That's just the vast majority. I think people are getting a bit exhausted with I think they've lost belief. I feel like I've said about the players. I think people have lost the belief now in this, because it's all well and good playing a negative style of football or a very unattractive style of football. I mean, I know some people will disagree and say, look, that's all I want to see is good entertainment. I get that as well, but I can understand as well. I sort of sit in this part where I can kind of suffer it as long as the results are okay. And let's be honest, they're not all been bad, not all been bad performances, but for the vast majority, it's been quite tough to watch. But you sometimes can swallow that if you're getting results and you're doing well. But when it's really bad and you're seeing a lack of fight, lack of belief, and the results are really terrible, it's really hard. It's really difficult. You get the feeling, though, that once like David Moyes, the situation he's in, the relationship he's got with the fans now feels so fractured. He's not doing himself any favours, actually, for what he's coming out and saying. I get it. I get why he's prickly. I get it. It must hurt. And I feel sorry for him in a way. I do feel for him. I do. Like, I hate the fact there's banners saying Moyes out. I don't like it. I do not like it. I get it. I understand fans, and they're people are entitled to do what they want. But I do feel for him a little bit. I do, because if you and his, certainly if I was in his shoes, I would be thinking, God, I've just won that. I've just done this, and I feel like I'm getting that Moyes out banners. It must be quite painful for him. But what really he should be doing is, when he's talking to the press after a game, is sort of try and understand the West Ham fans' point of view. Try and level with them a little bit. Just say, look, do you know what? I totally get it. This is crap. This has been really bad for quite a while. The performance levels have been shocking. That's what he needs to start doing. And unfortunately, he doesn't. He bites. He bites back. He's kind of, you never had it so good, and all this kind of stuff. It just doesn't wash very well with the fans. And he's kind of coming out and saying silly things. I mean, after that Norwich Forest game, some of his comments about the game and saying, we fought really well, and it was a really, we battled, you saw spirit and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing here. I haven't got the quotes in front of me, but you know what I'm saying? He was kind of alluding to this performance that just wasn't there. And fans aren't stupid, do you know what I mean? They're not going to buy that. And if anything, you're just annoying fans. They're going to be more angry. I think eat some humble pie. Come out and just say, look, you know what? This ain't good enough. This is not good enough. This club now is at a really big point, you feel. It's a big moment here. And David Sullivan's got to stop just sort of sitting back and waiting all the time. You've got to back your person. And for me, it's Tim Steidten. That's the person we need to back. We want to go into the next step of this football club. We want to strive forward. We've got someone here that's really highly rated, who's got a great knowledge of the game, who will, absolutely, I've got no doubt at all, have a list of managers that he would like to work with. And I'm sure there'll be a few that we've probably never heard of or considered. And I like that. I like the idea of a manager, a director of football that comes in and goes, this is the style I want. Let him build his project now. We've had the David Moyes project. Okay? We've had it. And it's done well. It's done all right. Do you know what I mean? We've got Europe. We've got a trophy. I'm happy with it. I don't want to see it again. Do you know what I mean? It's I think the fans are exhausted with it. We want to see something different. We want to see a change. And I'm not even going to go into this video about the media and how they're treating West Ham fans over this. I think it's just ridiculous. The constant backing that David Moyes continually gets, and the belittling of West Ham fans, and this sort of trying to crush our aspirations and dreams and wanting to strive and do better, it really just does my brain in. But forgetting all that, a rebuild is needed at West Ham. It's evident. And it's going to be more so in the summer because it's likely Paqueta's going to go. That's what we're anticipating. And, don't know for certain, obviously, because of this betting stuff, but let's just take it that he is. There's going to be a lot of money to spend. Do we want to give it to David Moyes again? I don't think so. I think it's time now that the manager, I think hands should be shaken and just say, look, thank you for everything. But David Sullivan now needs to start getting his decisions correct and stand back. Let Tim Steidten work. Stop. Don't bring a director of football in and then don't use him because he won't stay. He will not stay. This is what we brought Steidten in for. A rebuild is needed, but not with David Moyes. But you get the feeling that with Tim Steidten doing a rebuild, it'll be a really exciting time for West Ham.